Hello everyone, I am Areti and I'm very honored to be here with you today. I've been working in philanthropy for many years now, and what I would like to unpack with you here is something that I have been racking my brain over throughout my career. And that is the way we do philanthropy today. We seem to be completely disregarding the human that we're supposed to be helping. And that's a massive paradox, because the word philanthropy, the very definition of the word philanthropy, comes from the Greek, and I should know, being one, comes from the Greek philos, which means love, and anthropos, which means human. So philanthropy is our love for humans. Yet we seem to be constantly taking the human out of our philanthropy. It's completely ironic, but it's true. So I talk about this with a very good friend of mine, Scott Chapman, who's a renowned humanitarian consultant. And he tells me, listen, I'll tell you what happened at one of the aid programs that I was consulting. We were tackling HIV transmissions in Zimbabwe, and as well as distributing condoms at the community health centers, we also started promoting the use of lube, of water-based lubricants. So, because lube is very important actually when it comes to safe sex. It minimizes trauma and bleeding, which essentially minimizes the risk of HIV transmission. So they measure the distribution of lube before they start the program, and of course at the end of the program. And then they find that 2 years into the program, the lube distribution had increased by 90%. And that's all great in the lube distribution. But the real question here is, where did HIV transmission stand? So 2 years in the program, 2 years of testing people at the testing clinics, and HIV transmissions had remained the same. So to find out what had happened there, they had to go beyond the quantitative data that they received from the clinics and get qualitative data through interviews with the people that were using the lube. So they got a team of people to go door to door and interview them. One interviewer in particular, on her first day, she enters the courtyard of this man's house and finds him using the lube there and then in front of her on his bicycle chain. So he was not the only one. Everyone was doing that. They were trying to tackle HIV transmissions, and everyone was using the lube on their bicycle chains. Very well lubricated bikes were going all around the town, and the happy customers were enjoying the free distribution while HIV transmissions remained the same. And Scott goes on after that and says, we had to engage the beneficiaries to find out why, despite the lube distribution success, we had actually completely failed. And I'm like, wait a minute, what do you mean? The fact that you had to interview the people in Zimbabwe, you had to engage with them, was an avoidable step? Like in the private sector, not involving your consumer, your user, would be unheard of. When you create a product or a service, you interview your target audience, you ask them what their needs are, and then you measure success through surveys, referrals, reviews, etc. In the non-profit sector, your consumer, your user, is the beneficiary, is the person you're helping. So how on earth can that beneficiary in the philanthropic program, engaging them, can it be an option and not a requirement? And even worse, how do we know that we're not actually harming the people that we're supposed to be helping if we don't engage with them? Bringing about a completely counterproductive result would really be tragic, because we truly want to help. We come in with the best of intentions to support people that are less privileged. Bill Clinton came in with the best of intentions in the 1990s when he started distributing rice that was produced in the US, to feed the people in Haiti. We all want to help when every time we buy a pair of Tom's shoes, we give away one to a person in need in a developing country. And the people that donate $100 million in total every year to orphanages in Haiti absolutely want to help. But do they know that 80% of the children of the orphanages actually have at least one of their parents? When J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter, initiated an investigation in 2017, she found children at the orphanages, at the worst orphanages in Haiti, living in completely inhumane conditions. Sleeping in half a plank of wood on a metal bunk bed in a building that looked like a construction site. They found that the owner of one of the worst orphanages there jumped on this $100 million business opportunity that we created with our donations, and went from home to home to try to convince the parents to give their children away to him, promising shelter, food, and education, because he knew that these parents were not able, didn't have the means to bring their children up. So let's focus on that for a second. They had no means to bring their children up. And how do we, from the West, deal with the problem? Instead of enabling them to make a living for themselves, we constructed this warped system that took their children away from them, with our money, with our donations. So now it's become an industry. Taking your child to an orphanage is so common at the moment in Haiti that it's very difficult to break the vicious cycle that we created. And every time we buy a pair of Tom's shoes and we know that another pair is given away to a disadvantaged person, don't we understand that we're not enabling that person to make a living for themselves and buy their own shoes? Did we go to school, worked hard our way up into university or an apprenticeship, to then be given things away, to be given handouts, or to find a way and earn our own living? And if we take it to a higher level, is a strong national economy built on handouts or on homegrown products and its own industries? Bill Clinton realized that by handing out rice that was produced in the US to people in Haiti, he actually killed local rice production there. That policy that was implemented more than 30 years ago still threatens, to this date, the livelihood of rice farmers in Haiti. So in January 2010, he came out and issued an official apology. He said, "I have to live every day of my life with the consequences of the lost capacity of producing a rice crop to feed these people in Haiti because of what I did back in the 1990s. We all have to take responsibility. We all have to take responsibility for our philanthropic actions, for the philanthropic actions that actually achieve the opposite of what we want, that perpetuate poverty. Mohamed Yunus, 2006 Nobel Peace Prize winner, uses a great metaphor to reflect what poverty really means. He says, go and look at the tallest tree in the forest. Pick the best seed of that tree and plant it in a flower pot. After a while, you get a little tree that's like a meter or less than a meter high. You get something the size of a bonsai tree. So what's the problem with this little one? The problem, he says, is the flower pot. If you had planted that tree in the real soil, in the forest, you would have gotten a tree as tall as the one that you saw in that forest. So this is precisely what happens when we do philanthropy without taking into consideration the human that we're helping. What we're doing is we're giving aid in that little flower pot. not in the real soil. So we're not creating the circumstances for those people to thrive in. We're creating bonsai people. And that's it. That's the only difference, the only fundamental difference between them and us. They don't have the infrastructure, the laws, the internet, the financial systems, the educational systems that we were given or were able to earn for ourselves. And when we give away shoes and clothes and rice, or we assume these distorted versions of their lives, what we're doing is we're engaging in this massive production of little flower pots, and therefore we're basically destroying the ability of those people to have a forest, or even them knowing that a forest is what they should be demanding. I was lucky enough to deal with the agony of how to truly help disadvantaged people and turn it into my vocation, my profession, my business. At my company, we gather the stories of the people we serve through interviews and surveys. We derive data out of these stories, and then we direct philanthropic action. We co-build with the beneficiaries philanthropic programs. And we work with some amazing organizations like the Vodafone Foundation, who give internet and digital education to children in refugee camps in 4 African countries. With Resonance, a property impact investment fund in the UK that houses homeless people, and through the data analysis that we do together, they're able to affect government policies to eradicate homelessness in the UK altogether. And we listen to the beneficiaries throughout the interventions, so that in the end, we can tell their stories out of poverty, out of homelessness, out of domestic abuse, and into this flourishing forest that we create for them. So we would love for you to join us in our journey, in the journey of unrooting this perception that beneficiaries are some distant objects of our help, and transform them into the subjects, the actors who are improving their own lives on their own terms based on their real needs. So let's move away from the oppressive giveaways, from these 8 assumptions that are completely counterproductive. Instead, let's invest in research, in policy changing, in enabling these people to earn the education, the infrastructure, the life that we are lucky enough to enjoy. Thank you very much.